Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Brought to you by Total Transportation of Mississippi, offering nationwide and regional routes. Total Transportation of Mississippi, weekly pay, monthly bonuses, full benefits, frequent home time, all powered by TotalMS.com. Apply today, TotalMS.com. Nationwide and regional routes, Total Transportation of Mississippi. Apply today, TotalMS.com. We're 105.9 The Zone ESPN. I'm your host, Bo Bounds, the Out of Bounds Show. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We welcome in Tom Luginbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN. Lugs, when's the first time you met or heard of Curt Cignetti?
Well, obviously he's got a long-standing history in the sport. That last name goes back a long way, in the sport. And so I think he's got a brother. It would probably would have been time at Pitt or Alabama.
Okay. All right.
I think his brother's Frank.
Okay. And his dad was a hell of a coach?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so you either ran into him at Pitt or Alabama. Why do you think you know how we are in college football? Whoever the hot coach is, everybody preys on those assistants, right? Well, I mean, we can go back to Pete Carroll, Urban Meyer, Nick, Dabo. You know the drill. All right.
Kirby.
So, Kirby, exactly. Why he's obviously he's quirky. He's off the charts bright. He's the flavor of the month right now in college football. Why do you think, even after coaching under Saban, when Saban was hotter, when Bama was hotter than hot, as you know, you went through there a million times. Why do you think he had to go to IUPU and James Madison for as long as he did before getting a shot at one of the worst college football programs in the history of college football, Luke?
Well, listen, he actually didn't have to. He chose to. You know, he went to Nick Saban when he was a position coach and says, hey, I want to be a head coach one day, and I've got an opportunity to be a head coach at IUPI with no coordinator experience, none of that stuff. And he basically bet on himself. And he went out and he found whatever it was he was looking for that he needed to dive into to have a leadership role, become a head coach, and work through the whole thing, and then slowly work himself up the ranks of the profession. I mean, you talk about a guy who completely and totally went out and did this on his own. I mean, obviously when you start out as a GA and then, you know, you hope to get this job and move here and then, you know, move up and take this job and you become a position coach and then, you know, eventually a coordinator if you're going along the normal path of rising in the profession. Well, he basically sacrificed being where he was at, or becoming a higher level assistant coach, working himself up at bigger programs to jump into a head coaching role where there was more risk, less notoriety, probably less chance of success, and completely bet on himself.
Yeah, people don't do that. I mean,
no,
not when you're
like Jerry Kill. Remember Jerry Kill?
Yeah.
So Jerry Kill, he did exactly that. He took the Saginaw Valley State job. All right, they were terrible. He turned them into a winner. Then he went down to some small school in Kansas, turned them into a winner. Then goes to Southern Illinois, turns them into a winner. Then goes to Northern Illinois, turns them into a winner. And all of these places were terrible when he arrived. And then he gets the Minnesota job, turns them into a winner. But like some of these guys just, and to be honest with you, I know there's a lot of criticism right now on Kalen DeBoer. He's self-made.
Yeah.
He did the exact same thing, right? And so you got to have a lot of respect for it.
Yeah, I love the path because it's so unorthodox, right? It's not what we all we all think of all the Pete Carroll guys that just left and got and a lot of them too early, as we've discussed with you, right? Lane and Sark got the gold too early. And then you got somebody like Cignetti that doesn't get a P4 job till he's 61 years old. Isn't that remarkable, Luke?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy, right? It's unbelievable.
We are all, you and I get to cover the game, but we're also fans. And so we're all obsessed and we admire these coaches that are able to go somewhere, win at a high level. And of course, Signetti's doing that. And we get obsessed with the process. So as you've been around Pete Carroll and Urban and Kirby and Saban and Dabo for the last 25 years, how did Signetti do this? I mean, it's not like he was heavily involved in the portal at James Madison, but he understood in 5 seconds when hired at Indiana, one, I'm going to bring these 13 players with me, but then we're also going to be ready to dive into the portal immediately. Why do you think he's been so successful out of the gate at Indiana, Luke?
Because he targeted proven production and experience over talent and youth alone. Meaning that, and there's been a lot of talk about this on the internet, and it's very, very true. Look at their roster and look how old it is. And it is really hard to be old in college football right now. I mean, it's littered with grad transfers, fifth-year seniors, redshirt seniors, redshirt juniors, like all across the board at key spots. So they're very, very experienced across the board. And then I just think that he valued production over hype or somebody who was highly sought after coming out of high school but hadn't played yet. He looked at that and said, okay, that guy might be really talented, but he can't help me right now.
Right.
I need to go find somebody who maybe isn't quite as talented, but has started 33 games somewhere and can come help me right now. So, like, those guys, that's where the whole thing started with Curtis Rourke. Because Curtis Rourke was a highly productive, multi-year starter at Ohio University in the MAC, where they had back-to-back 10-win seasons, and I think he had started close to 30-some-odd games. So he's looking at that guy saying, that guy's productive, he's accurate, he's talented, he's played a lot. I would like that guy over a host of these other guys over here who haven't played. And right now, as we're sitting here doing this call, I'm actually in the process right now of because I have to handle a lot of our quarterback rankings for the transfer portal, our overall top-level rankings, our portal fits from one school to another and all this and that. And I can tell you right now, like Brendan Thorsby, Byron Brown, Rocco Beck, Josh Hoover, Drew Mestamaker. There's a bunch of guys out there that have played a ton of football, right? But let's just take Deuce Knight, all right? So Deuce Knight, who was at Auburn, goes into the portal. He started one game against an FCS opponent as a freshman last year, and then redshirted. But he doesn't help you immediately. These other guys help you immediately. And that's what Curt Cignetti targeted position-wide across the board.
Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with ESPN on the Out of Bounds show. Yeah, so he hit on the quarterback back-to-back in the portal.
Yep.
And, I mean, is he the best evaluator in college football right now?
He might be. He might be the best evaluator in college football. I tell you what, they're the most prepared football team in college football. They're the best coach team.
I mean, he embarrassed Oregon. They're a top 5 recruiter. You know that better than anybody. You've run recruiting for a long time.
Yeah. Right. No, I understand that. But again, I think what happens is when you're talented and you're old, you can trump talented and young, especially when you don't beat yourself. I mean, we talked about this last week on the show. I told you point blank. If you're going to beat Indiana, you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. So if you go out there and you screw it up, you got no shot at winning. And that's just, I mean, this is a team that has had, do you know that they have lost one fumble, one, in 15 weeks?
Wow.
And it came in the first game of the season, and that has never happened in the history of FBS football.
Wow.
One. And it happened in the first week of the season. That's impossible. Like that, even bad luck.
Right.
Just sheer luck would cause you to lose a couple of those. I think I said it to you last week. They went into that game last week. They had 11 defensive penalties the entire season. The entire season?
What?
How many times do we look in a box score on a Sunday morning and we see somebody go, oh my God, they had 12 penalties yesterday. They've had 11 on defense the entire year, right? They don't give up negative plays. They don't give up explosive plays. They've had the fewest called penalties for defensive pass interference of any team in college football, right? The quarterback's elite. They've got a run game, all right? Their offensive center is elite. They're all old. Like this, there are so many things about them. And so when you go out and you play them, and I'm sitting here, I got to do ACC PM tonight, and a lot of our talk's going to be the preview and the Miami and Indiana matchup.
Sure.
The thing is, it's going to be a front game, as it always is when you get to this point.
Right.
But the question is, can Miami match Indiana's execution and flawless ability to avoid mistakes? Because nobody else has matched it yet. Nobody.
Oh, I think you tell me. You're the football guy. Tom Luginbill, ESPN, on the Out of Bounds show, and the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. I think now Miami, you said it last week, and you went into it was really good analysis about Miami and the roster and what Cristobal has been able to do. I don't want to take anything away from that. And Heatherman, this DC hire, holy hell, he's good and all that. But I'll say this, Luke, so you tell me what you think. I thought Shannon Dawson almost cost them the OC for Miami, almost cost them the game against Ole Miss. They're ripping off almost 7 yards a carry, and he wants to throw. Carson Beck had no business throwing the ball 37 times the other night, the way that Miami was running the football. I thought they got cute. I thought they win by 2 scores. So here's and first of all, I'd like your thoughts on that, but then here's my takeaway from that. Shannon Dawson may get embarrassed by Indiana if he gets sped up and cute like he did against Ole Miss. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that Miami is the only team that gets in their own way. Just like I said, Miami is the only team that's beat Miami. When you look at the course of their record and the course of what they've done, their 2 losses, they turned the ball over 6 times. Everybody else, they boat raced or they've beaten a top 10 ranked team, right? So everybody wants to have that discussion about, oh, did they belong and things of that nature. Well, we're way past that. Now we're to the question that you just asked is, okay, if you're going to win this whole thing, and you can line up and just win at the point of attack. So Miami's got the best offensive line in college football. If you can win at the point of attack, Don't get cute. Just wear them out. Look what they did in the fourth quarter on 3rd down. I mean, it was unbelievable, the display of execution Miami had on 3rd down to win that game. But if you look at the A&M game, you look at the Ohio State game, and you look at the game versus Ole Miss, they've dominated the fourth quarter because they had worn people down. So why in the world would you get away from that in any way, shape, or form?
Okay, so the better coaching staff is Cignetti. Not that Miami doesn't have good coaches, but the better personnel is Miami. I'm thinking this is what you're thinking, and if it is, describe the gap to our listeners, if any.
The gap of talent?
Yeah.
Well, you can make the argument that Miami may have superior talent in many areas, not all, in many areas. So I think when I look at this, what this game comes down to is Carson Beck is going to have to somehow match Fernando Mendoza's efficiency because that guy does not lose games, right? And as good as Carson Beck has been on this run, they have 2 losses because of Carson Beck. So to me, I think from a front standpoint, that's where this is going to be played. But when you get into this game, and it's the last one left, the quarterback's going to have to play out of his mind, whoever it is. But if it's Miami, Carson Beck's going to have to play better than Fernando Mendoza.
Damn. Okay. Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Out of Bounds show. What a matchup. Indiana and Miami. Okay, so Indiana has the edge at quarterback and coaching, and Miami has the edge with personnel. And I think their defensive coordinator levels up with Indiana as far as coaching.
I think both of those guys are rising young guys.
Okay.
Heisman and Brian Haynes. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you believe that with Oregon getting embarrassed, Bama getting embarrassed by Indiana, Georgia was embarrassed in the second half, especially the third quarter, by Ole Miss. Do you see they're still not loading up in the portal? Not all these teams. Do you expect them to really make a shift away from? I mean, still grab high school recruits, but maybe half of what they've been grabbing, and the blue bloods to go more into the portal.
No, I think the top tier teams, even the teams that have lost, you got to understand that they've been playing from behind because they oftentimes don't know who's going to enter the portal off of their roster until they lose, right? While everybody else has already been working the portal. And so I also, I'm a firm believer in this, and I still back Dabo Swinney on this sentiment because I think it's true. If there's 6,000 people in the transfer portal, okay, and you are a college football playoff participant, how many of those guys in the portal are currently better than what you're playing with? Less than 1%, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe less than 2%. So when you say active, when we're talking about the Georgias or the Ohio States, I think it's a bit cyclical, and I think it's more based on need than it is based on going out there and just saying, all right, we got to bring in this amount of guys to help our roster. Because remember, those teams are going to have the best high school players, and if those high school players become developed and are any good, you don't need to go into the portal because there's your guy right there. That's where Miami and Mario Cristobal have gone so far past Florida and Florida State. Is they have come up with this blend, whatever the formula is,
right,
of transfer portal additions and highly productive high school recruits that they signed that have become great players. Ruben Bain, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Toney, Francis Maui Noah, OJ Frederic. Like, these are all guys who were high school guys that they signed. And then you blend in the Akeem Mesidors, right? And you blend in the Carson Becks or the Cam Wards and the C.J. Daniels, and you have a core nucleus there. Florida State, if they miss on a transfer portal guy, they got no shot because they've done no investment in high school football players.
Okay. I like where you're going with this blend that Cristobal and his GM and others have come up with. Obviously,
Ohio State did it last year.
They did.
That was Ohio State last year.
That's
Think
true.
about it. They hit the quarterback. They did Caleb Downs. But then their running back,
Judkins,
Travion Henderson, Jeremiah Smith, right? Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, all of those guys are high school guys. And they did it and had a nice little blend.
Okay. And then, like, Kiffin at LSU, now that he's at an elite recruiter, plus he started this journey 5 years ago, putting together the best scouting department in what is this new iteration of college football. It's going to be fascinating to see what blend Kiffin wants to do because they trip over 4 stars and get 5 stars occasionally, but then he loves the portal, right? So won't that be interesting to you, Luke's?
Absolutely, especially now that he's at a place in a state where you have no Power 4 competitor,
right,
and those kids grow up wanting to attend LSU, so they're kind of yours to lose. So if you can maintain possession of those guys in state, develop them, and get them integrated quickly so that they don't pick up their ball and go home and want to go into the portal, that's how you blend the portal there with the in-state talent that you don't have. Like, it's not like being at Alabama and Auburn, right?
Right.
It's not like being in the state of Texas. You get to your pick of the litter. Now you got to develop them and get them involved so that they don't leave, and then blend the transfer portal guys with those guys.
Let me give you an example. Georgia only has 5 commitments in the portal. Now, we still have a week or so or whatever it is. But, does that do anything for you? Does that jump out at you as far as the number that Kirby's bringing in?
No, I think they're being selective. They're looking at the current roster that they have right now, and they're probably sitting up there looking at the board, and they've got guys ranked in the portal like everybody else. And as a staff, they're going, does that guy improve us? Like, do we have to have that guy? And if the answer is no, they're not going to force it. They'd rather develop a really good high school player that's going to be what they seem to be an elite player. But if it's a no-brainer and you're sitting there and you're looking at it, I mean, to me, if I'm sitting there looking at Georgia and you told me they signed 5 to 7 guys out of the portal, I'd say that's probably pretty appropriate.
Okay. And then Sark, another blue blood's kind of going, and everybody's model, you know, if you do it right, there can be dozens of different models and as you know, ratios is what you're describing of a blend of high school and the portal. Texas is number 1 in the portal according to 247, and they have 13 commits. So it just kind of depends on where you are that year, how many people are leaving, how many people are possibly going pro, right?
Right, and look at where their commits are. Okay, who did they lose at wide receiver? Parker Livingstone, DeAndre Moore, right? Jamie French. They just left the program. So where's their need? And is the guy on the market better than what they have? They feel Cam Coleman is, right? So you go out and you make that guy a priority. Look at their running back room. Wisner, C.J. Baxter, all these guys, gone. All right, we have a need at running back. We got to go find out who's better than what we currently have. Okay, it's Hollywood Smothers and it's Raleek Brown out of ASU. So it's when you see what the departures are, and then you look at your internal roster as you have it now without an addition, you're now making a calculation. Do we have to go do something, or do we have good enough here to not have to deal with that and we can invest in our current roster? If not, we go out on the market and we target the best player we possibly can.
I don't know what your schedule is next week. So do you want to pick the game?
We can do Monday again.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll get.
I will be at the game, but we might have to do the earlier window again because I'm going to have a production meeting at 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay.
And then obviously we're doing a pregame show, a halftime show, and a postgame show for ACC Network. But we'll be able to work something out if you can go earlier next week like you did this week.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, Luke. Thank you, man.
All right, man. See you. Bye.
Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with ESPN. He joined us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Visit Mississippi at Visit MS. So your next guys trip or bachelor party, where do you go? You go to the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast and enjoy the casinos and the amazing restaurants and the fishing and the golf, right? Guys trips, entertaining clients, bachelor parties powered by the beautiful, beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast with casinos, resorts, golf courses, and incredible fishing, along with fabulous local restaurants. Your next bachelor party or guys trip powered by the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast. We are the Out of Bounds show. Bo Bounds, Jackson Meadows with you. On a Monday, Steve Robertson and Tom Luginbill were fantastic. Don't forget that you can find our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Back in a second.